If you've ever seen St. Bart's, you've probably seen the version that shows up in travel videos. Designer boutiques, beach clubs, and super yachts stacked in a harbor like floating mansions. But that modern image hides a much stranger truth. For most of its history, this island wasn't a playground, it was a problem. The land was too dry for sugar, the soil was too thin, fresh water was always scarce. It was so unpromising that France eventually gave it away. And somehow, this same rocky, overlooked island would become one of the most exclusive hideaways on Earth. This is Before the Port, a series from Charted and Uncharted. And this is how one of the poorest islands in the Caribbean became a billionaire hideaway. St. Barts is a tiny volcanic island in the northeastern Caribbean, only about 8 miles long. It rose from the sea millions of years ago as part of the Lesser Antilles volcanic chain, shaped by eruptions, erosion, and time. Unlike many Caribbean islands, St. Barts emerged dry and unforgiving. Its soil is thin and rocky. There are no rivers, no lakes, and no natural freshwater springs. Rainwater has always been scarce, and agriculture was never easy. What the island lacked in fertility, however, it made up for in geography. Steep hills tumble down to white sand coves, coral reefs protect calm harbors, and the coastline feels almost sculpted. From the beginning, St. Barts was never going to be a farming island. Its destiny would be shaped by scarcity. Long before Europeans arrived, indigenous peoples of the Caribbean knew this island well. Archaeological evidence suggests that Taino and Arawak groups moved through the region centuries before colonization, traveling by canoe between islands. Some believe they called the island Oanalao, possibly referencing the large iguana population. But unlike larger islands, St. Barts never supported large, permanent settlements. The lack of fresh water made long-term habitation difficult. It was known, visited, and used, but rarely settled. In 1493, during his second voyage, Christopher Columbus sighted the island and named it Saint Barthélemy after his brother. Spain quickly lost interest. There was no gold, no fertile land, no strategic advantage. For more than a century, the island remained largely untouched. France made the first serious attempt to colonize St. Barts in the mid-1600s. A small group of settlers arrived, encouraged to survive through fishing, livestock, and small-scale farming. They tried growing cotton, tobacco, cacao, and indigo. They raised goats and cattle. They fished the surrounding reefs. But the island fought them at every turn. Without reliable water, crops failed. The land was too steep and rocky for plantations. Life was hard, isolated, and uncertain. In the 1650s, France handed the island to the Knights of Malta, hoping they could succeed where others had failed. They could not. Not long after, violence in the region forced the remaining settlers to flee or were killed. The colony collapsed. St. Barts was abandoned once again. For the next 100 years, the island existed mostly in the shadows, officially claimed but effectively forgotten. While nearby islands grew rich from sugar and slavery, St. Barts remained poor and quiet. Its isolation made it useful to a different kind of visitor. Local legend suggests the island became a refuge for pirates and smugglers. Its hidden coves and protected anchorages offered shelter from colonial authorities. Stories of buried treasure became part of island folklore, adding mystery to a place already overlooked. Whether those legends are fully true or not, they fit the reality. St. Barts was easy to disappear into. There was no sugar boom, no plantation economy, no influx of wealth. St. Barts slept while the Caribbean transformed around it. Then came one of the strangest chapters in Caribbean history. In 1784, France traded St. Barts to Sweden. France saw the island as a liability. Sweden saw opportunity. The Swedes renamed the capital Gustavia and declared it a free port. There would be no customs duties, no tariffs, and minimal regulation. Almost overnight, the island changed. Ships from Europe, the Americas, and the Caribbean passed through the harbor. Merchants, sailors, and traders filled the town. For a brief moment, St. Barts prospered. But the success was fragile. When wars ended and trade routes shifted, the economy collapsed. Hurricanes struck, disease followed, slavery ended, and many freed people left in search of opportunity elsewhere. By the mid-1800s, Sweden had lost interest. In 1878, Sweden sold the island back to France. Under French rule once again, St. Barts was tied administratively to Guadeloupe. Paris paid little attention to the island. Life remained brutally difficult. Families survived through fishing, goat herding, salt harvesting, and small gardens. Young men often left to find work elsewhere in the Caribbean, sending money home when they could. There was no electricity, no airport, no paved roads. Rainwater was collected in cisterns. The island remained one of the poorest places in the Caribbean well into the 20th century. In 1946, St. Barts became a full overseas territory of France. Its residents were granted French citizenship, access to education, healthcare, and social services. But economically, the island was still asleep. The turning point arrived by air. In the late 1940s, a pilot named Remy de Haenen landed a small plane on a pasture near the beach. It was the first aircraft to touch down on the island. That moment changed everything. Soon after, one of the island's first hotels opened, perched dramatically above the sea. It attracted a specific kind of visitor, not crowds, not package tourists, people looking for privacy. Then came another signal. David Rockefeller visited, fell in love with the island's isolation, and bought land to build a private home. That mattered. When someone like Rockefeller chooses a place, others take notice. Word spread quietly. By the 1970s, St. Barts entered a new phase. Celebrities, artists, and financiers arrived, not in droves, but selectively. The island never built mega resorts. Buildings stayed low. Development was controlled. Instead of hotels, luxury villas appeared on hillsides, hidden behind stone walls and greenery. The airport was expanded, but with a short runway that only small planes could use. That limitation became an asset. Mass tourism never arrived. St. Barts became known for quiet luxury. No flashing signs, no chain hotels, no spectacle, just privacy. Today, super yachts fill the harbor. Designer boutiques line the waterfront. Real estate prices rank among the highest in the world, yet the island remains understated. There are no skyscrapers, no casinos, no cruise ships. It is not a playground. It is a hideaway. Before the yachts, before the villas, before the port. There was a dry island with no water, no plantations, and no obvious future. St. Barts did not become rich despite being poor. It became rich because it stayed poor for so long. Isolation became exclusivity. Scarcity became value. Simplicity became luxury. And that is the story of St. Barts, before the port.